It's been said that accounting's roots go all the way back to the cradle of civilization in ancient Mesopotamia. Systems of auditing supported commerce in Babylon and ancient Egypt, and the principles of modern accounting have been set in place and stayed the same for centuries at this point. But for all its history and stability, the accounting industry today is being squeezed by massive forces of changes like never before. Global economy continues to outsource entry-level and even advanced high-paying jobs overseas. Artificial intelligence platforms improve in skill, and they automate and even eliminate entry-level accounting positions. In response, accounting firms move more and more toward client advisory services, which in and of themselves require an extra set of people and communication skills that don't appear on any CPA exam. Meanwhile, communicating the value of what your company does is getting harder and harder with traditional marketing methods. And accounting talent with wide open remote work options around the world means that people are harder than ever to find and to keep at your firm. All these challenges are reasons why today's accounting advisors, marketing leaders, and human resource leaders must go beyond what the industry has always done. We need to go beyond the numbers with communication that creates genuine human connection. There's a whole new world of possibility for your business, your team, and for you when you raise your communication from the ordinary to the extraordinary. Welcome to Speaking of Numbers, the podcast where we empower accounting executives and advisors to go beyond the numbers, to become confident, memorable communicators and thought leaders. When you do, you become the trusted expert in your field, the obvious choice for your clients, and a hero to yourself and your team. My name is Jeff Bartsch. I spent over 20 years in Hollywood shaping content for clients including ABC, NBC, Disney, Apple, Netflix, and a whole bunch of others. And in my time there, I came to realize that the communication that Hollywood is known for isn't just for movies and TV. Communication that stays in your heart and mind for years, maybe even the rest of your life. That kind of communication is a game changer for business, especially for client advisory services that require high levels of trust. And here's the good news. That level of communication isn't just for Hollywood royalty or people standing on stage or giving a TED Talk. It comes from ideas that are available to anyone who sees them and applies them to their own life. And that's what I'm here to share with you in this limited edition podcast. And this is, for the record, this is a limited edition podcast. This is not a podcast where an episode drops every week for hundreds of episodes. These are based around a small number of pre-planned episodes with specific, powerful ideas that all build on each other. So make sure you start from the beginning so you can get all the ideas and the tools in the right order so that you can start putting them into place for yourself. Now, before we dig into the ideas that make all this work, let's lay some foundation for who this podcast is for and why it should matter to you. The three groups of people that I'm thinking of within this podcast are client advisors, marketing leaders, and human resource leaders within the accounting world. First of all, to the advisor. This is primarily for multi-member accounting firms who offer advisory services to business clients or high net worth individuals. You're going beyond standard accounting services to create extra levels of value that your clients need. Now, I will say, I know that there's a huge number of accounting firms that are single operators or two-member partnerships. This is going to be most helpful for companies who have enough support staff to allow partners or advisors to focus mainly on client work. Now, if you are a solo advisor in public accounting, these ideas will absolutely be helpful for you. They can even move you down the path toward offering more value through advisory. But the fact is, you're wearing a lot of hats, and I'm not here to tell you what the priorities should be as you're operating your business. So not my zone of genius, but for the people who are focusing on client advisory, you are the ones, you already know the numbers like the back of your hand. But if you don't truly know how to connect with people in a way that builds the deep levels and understanding and trust that your position requires, all the numbers in the world don't mean anything. The ideas in these episodes will help you they'll help you create that genuine human connection with your clients so that they get what they want, they stay longer, happily pay more fees, and bring referrals with them. And if you're on the path to partner, these ideas will absolutely help you build your client base. You're building that human connection with existing and potential clients. And the thing is, maybe you're not looking to make partner. You want to be excellent at what you do and truly serve your clients. These ideas will absolutely help you do that. And you will become even more valuable to your company at the same time. There was a day when I was meeting one-on-one with an advisory client by the name of Tom. And we were talking about specific communication tools. And I asked him if he had any specific client interactions in mind. And he actually did. And he told me about a large client that he was working with who was in the process of doing their tax return. And there was a misunderstanding that arose when Tom's company pointed out that a law had changed and that would affect how this client would pay their taxes. And the CEO got mad and started withholding information. And the director of tax at Tom's company said, dude, if you're not going to give us this information, we can't sign your tax return. And the CEO got even more mad and it got really tense. And the client was this close to leaving and going somewhere else, even after years with Tom's company. So Tom and I used a communication tool to work through the situation. And he said he'd think some more. A little while later, he went to talk to the CEO. One conversation using the results of this conversation with, on the one-on-one call between Tom and me with this tool, one conversation talked the CEO off the ledge, kept that company from leaving. And based on Tom's estimation of that company's growth and timeline for acquisition, that client staying with Tom's company saved almost $200,000 in future revenue. One conversation with one client saved a company almost $200,000 because of working with squishy, intangible, I'm using air quotes for those of you who don't see the video version of this, air quote, squishy, intangible communication tools and frameworks. They saved this company almost $200,000 in revenue. These are the kind of ideas that I'm going to be unpacking in this podcast so that you can get those same kind of results in your client advisory work. So that's group number one. The second group that this podcast is for is marketing leaders. I'm talking marketing leaders at accounting firms, the CMO, VP, Director of Marketing. And let me just say, I feel for you because your job has never been more difficult. Information is free. Audiences are cynical and distracted, and traditional marketing methods are drowning in an AI multiplied flood of bland, unoriginal content. And audiences can smell it from a mile away and they just run. Now, you've considered putting a human face on your marketing by developing your in-house SMEs as public-facing thought leaders, but the instant that you think about that, either you or someone else just kind of points out that, accounting experts are not known for communicating well in public. I mean, let's just call a spade here. Thankfully, I've got good news for you. When it comes to public thought leadership, your in-house experts already have the most important thing. They have deep expertise in their field. That is the core right there. The rest of it, it's just skills that can be learned. I'll be telling you more about my own story in a little bit, but for a quick taste, this idea of public thought leader development is actually how I came to focus on the accounting world in the first place. I've been doing group and individual coaching for years until a company by the name of Summit Virtual CFO by Anders approached me, and they asked me to help them develop their in-house experts with their public presence. I said yes, and worked together with our marketing department and started meeting with the folks. There are 3 men at this point in that first round. And at first, it was just like anyone would expect. these guys, they didn't look into the camera. They were super stiff. They didn't know what to say, never mind how to bring it to life. And after working with them with multiple months and multiple levels of tools, the change was striking. These experts didn't have to become anyone new. They just became an upgraded version of themselves. And now they're doing all sorts of public appearances on behalf of Summit. They're building industry relationships, and Summit is growing. And Summit's marketing team is thrilled. Every webinar or podcast appearance can be broken down into a whole bunch of human-driven content that they can repurpose over and over. They can multiply it over any marketing channel that they want, and they get to use all this human-driven content over and over so their company can truly stand out by putting faces to their marketing messages. And the ideas in this podcast are the exact ideas that I help them put into use for themselves. The third category of people that this podcast is for is human resource leaders at accounting firms, CHRO, VP, or directors of HR. It seems like everywhere you look, there's another headline about how fewer college graduates are choosing accounting. The post-COVID world has accelerated change like we have never seen before in all sorts of industries, including accounting. And what we find more than ever before, finding and keeping great people today is hard. The best talent today knows their value, and they know that they have the upper hand in a world where remote employment means that they can work anywhere. And on top of that, the industry is outsourcing and automating low-level tasks, raising the need for firms to expand their client advisory services. Now, here's the thing with that. Extraordinary team retention and client advising requires communication skills that most accounting professionals have never been taught anywhere. That's why the ideas in this podcast are going to be huge for you and your people. As an example, as it turns out, one of my clients has always had a dream of being a journalist. She'd always admired Katie Couric because of the way that Katie connected with the people that she interviewed. So my client ended up in accounting instead of journalism. But over the years, she built her skills in different companies to lead her accounting teams, and now she is also working as a virtual CFO. And at first, upgrading the CFO advisory work was a stretch for her just by virtue of what the work is and the responsibility. And then when one of her peers asked her to co-host a podcast for the company with him, that was an even greater leap for her. But as we worked together, my client realized that this was actually what she'd been wanting all along. Ever since she was a young girl, watching people like Katie Couric on TV, now she gets to be her own version of Katie Couric in real life. Not only does she get to connect with the CEOs and the owners that she serves, she's also a podcast host and webinar facilitator as a public thought leader within her industry, which is incredibly fulfilling for her as an employee. She gets to live out her dream of connecting with people in the accounting world, representing her company publicly, and she's bringing even more value to her company, and she's finding a greater sense of personal fulfillment. All good things, all over the place. Now, I know that as a people leader, it can be hard to say, here are specific measurements of how we've kept our people happier and kept them around longer. There is no B option to compare things to. But every once in a while, we get a glimpse into how powerful what we do is. I've been working with one advisor on developing his public presence as a thought leader in his industry. And one day, after our coaching sessions ended, I found out that he'd actually been diagnosed with cancer. And that was a shock when I found that out. And I texted him saying, hey man, I heard about the news. I'm praying for you, for your doctors and your family. And a couple of days later, he emailed back. He said he was writing from the hospital in the middle of a chemotherapy treatment. And he said that our time together had gotten him thinking about all his stories and experiences. And he said that he's realized that it's time to kick this cancer to the curb because he's got a lot more to offer to the world, and not just to his family, but also to the clients that he serves. Thinking about your own life and your own stories can sometimes be the difference between believing my time here is done or I have a lot left to offer. If you're a people leader in the accounting world, be encouraged. This is the kind of power that these ideas can bring to the people that we serve. We're just getting started here. If you can tell that these ideas are going to be helpful for you or your company, then definitely keep listening to the next episodes. And if you'd like to fast track those results for yourself by working with me, I'm available for one-on-one or group coaching with a select group of forward-thinking clients each month. When you reach out via email to hello@storygreenlight.com, we can sit down, find out what's happening in your world, and talk about how these ideas can help you bring more revenue, more loyal clients, and more fulfilled team members into your world. The conversation is complimentary, no obligation for anyone. So send an email to hello@storygreenlight.com and let's make that happen for you. As Simon Sinek says, nobody buys what you do. They buy why you do it. That's what we've been talking about in this episode, why this stuff matters so much in the first place. Make sure to check out the next episode where we dig into the core of what brings this all to life. My goal is to show you a vision of what story is that's different from anything you've ever heard before. It might just stretch your brain a bit if you let it. It's that powerful. I'm Jeff Bartsch. I'll see you in the next episode.